Hey everyone, welcome back. This time we're going over domain 3. Domain 3 is kind of a heavy section. There's a lot of information that you need to know, really important stuff, so get comfortable, get your guide out, and get ready to take some notes. Jumping right in. Domain 3 is called program design. And obviously, program design, in this section, we're going to be talking about how to create workout programs for your clients. And NASM breaks down these training programs into 7 different categories, 7 different types of training programs. And they are flexibility, resistance, cardiorespiratory, core training, balance, plyometrics, and SAQ training. And that's the order that the study guide is going to go through. So we're starting off with flexibility training on page 26. And you're going to notice that I'm going to say know everything on this page quite a lot because, this entire section is very important and a lot of it you really do have to know, all of it. So 26, know everything on this page about flexibility. Know what static stretching is and the difference between dynamic stretching and when to do static and when to do dynamic. That kind of stuff you're going to get asked. Next page, 27. Talk about resistance training systems. Again, know everything on this page. Know the terms, know what a drop set is, know what a single set is, and know what circuit training or vertical loading is. Right? There's definitions right there. Understand the concepts. At the bottom of page 27, there's a table for resistance training methods. We're going to go into that in a little more detail later on when we talk about acute variables. But just be familiar with that table. Be familiar with the exercises. Page 28, cardiorespiratory training. This is very important. They talk about stage training, and there's 3 different stages in the cardiorespiratory training program. And then there's different heart rate zones. Understand what zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 is and what the 3 stages are. Most likely you are going to get asked about that on the test. I think an example was, you have a runner or an advanced exerciser, and what different types of zones should he go through versus intermediate or beginner. Okay, so know that. Page 29, core training. There's really not much to know on this page, so be sure you know everything on it. What the drawing maneuver is, what bracing is, and be familiar what the different types of core exercises are depending on which phase you're in, whether it be stabilization, strength, or power phase. Next page, 30, balance training methods. Okay, so balance is talked about a lot, and it's talked about in various sections of the book. Understand the importance of balance and how it affects you, or not you, but your client in the beginning, and how it affects later on as they continue training, because balance is very important. And again, here are balance exercises. Be familiar with different types of exercises depending on which phase you're in. So an easy way to kind of understand or conceptualize it is when you're in the stabilization, when you're first starting off, you're in phase 1, the exercises have very little motion. You're balancing on one leg and you're not moving around that much. And as you progress and get better and you go into like phases 2, 3, and 4, you start moving more, like a single leg squat. That's a strength phase balance exercise versus just a single leg balance, which is a stabilization, a phase 1 exercise. And in phase 5, which is power, power phase is there's a lot of motion. You're moving around a lot. Okay. Next page, 31. Proprioceptive manipulation. Basically, it's talking about how to make or throw off your balance and make it more difficult to exercise. Know how the progression goes, going from floor. It's easiest to balance on a floor and do an exercise or movement on a floor versus being on a wobble board. All right, so on page 31, there's a nice little flow diagram there. Be sure you know that and what's easiest and what's next and advancing in terms of your balance, challenging your balance. Plyometrics, at the bottom it starts. Know what plyometrics are and know what their exercises are. I remember during the test, they asked you, okay, this client is wanting to do a strength plyometric exercise. Which one of these is a strength plyometric exercise? And it shows you, it tells you, if you look at the table and you see all my scribbles there, be sure you know what a plyometric exercise is and what it does for you and why it's beneficial for the client. One thing I'm gonna mention is some of the exercises between a balance exercise and a plyometric exercise, they sound very similar. And I was kind of confused. And on the question, they're gonna throw both options in there. So both choices. For example, on the balance power exercise, one of them is the box hop up with stabilization. Okay, so that's a balanced power exercise. But when you look over here on the plyometric exercises, there's a box jump up with stabilization. It's very similar. There's a box hop up for balance and a box jump up for plyometrics. And you're taking a test or you're reviewing. It's like, what the hell? What's the difference? Well, remember that balance is all about balance. And you balance on one leg. So hopping, I don't know. I guess I didn't catch on, but hopping means you're only on one leg. You hop with one leg. So that's obviously a balanced movement versus a box jump. You jump with both legs. So that's how you tell the difference. And that took me a while to realize. And hopefully this helps you guys out differentiating between what a plyometric exercise and a balance exercise is. So anything dealing with one leg is most likely, actually, it is a balance routine versus jumping, which is two legs, and that's a plyometric exercise. Okay? So hop is one leg, jumping is two legs. One leg is balanced. If you're jumping with two legs, it's a plyometric. Get it? Okay. Yeah, that took me forever. I was like, what the hell? What's the difference? And then I'm just going over the notes. I was like, oh, okay. Balance one leg. Okay. So we're still on page 32, going to SAQ. I didn't get asked too much about SAQ, and the book doesn't, they talk about it, but it doesn't seem to be overly or as important as the other topics, other training methods, but definitely go over it and know what SAQ stands for, at least. Speed, agility, quickness. We're looking at page 32 here. Moving on to page 33. Yep. You need to know everything on here. Key concepts. There's a statement here. Fitness professionals need to know how to progress and regress each exercise detailed in the textbook. Right there. So what that means is, okay, we have someone who's having a hard time doing a traditional push-up. So how do we regress? Meaning, how do we make it easier? Go on your knees. You do a push-up on your knees. That's what they're talking about. And go in the book to learn about the details and different regressions and progressions. How to make an exercise easier and more difficult. Okay? Moving on to page 34. Principle of overload, principle of variation, periodization concepts. Yeah, just be familiar with the information on this page. I mean, there's really not much to be tested on it, but principle of progressive overload, that's pretty much, yeah, just be sure to keep challenging yourself and keep making it a little more difficult, or whether it be weight wise or balance wise. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Next page is 35. Okay, now we're talking about the acute variables. Acute variables are, depending on what phase you're in, phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how many reps you do, how many sets you do, how fast you do it. I mean, this covers, it goes from 35 to 37, and it's 3 pages filled with these tables. And it's like, okay, I don't know about other YouTube videos, they don't talk too much about this, and they always talk about the overhead squat assessment, but I think this is just as important, because I've been asked a good number of questions on the exam about how many reps someone should do if they're in this phase and they're on this particular training program. But we're going to go into that in a little bit later. Okay? Save it. I'll put it over here. So let's finish up these last, 4 or 5 pages, and let's go back to those tables. In continuation, we're on page 38, and now we're just going over general things like risk and reward, what overtraining is, resting, recovery. Be familiar and understand everything on this page. It's nothing too crazy. Some of it is pretty obvious, so know everything on here. Page 39. Okay, so current trends and their application to training. Talks about like mobile apps. Let's see if I can read it backward. Activity trackers, social media, emerging technologies. It's just nice information. It's like a nice to have information, but I didn't get tested on it, I don't believe. And if so, obviously it wasn't too important. But definitely don't skip it. Read it, understand it, know what they're talking about, and be familiar. Page 40. Program design for special populations. Okay. So again, they're just throwing some shit ton of tables at you. And the tables are catering or specializing your program or workouts for particular groups of people, all right, for special populations, youths, seniors, old people, overweight or obese, people with hypertension, osteoporosis, pregnant women. This is a lot of information, and you might think, man, what? I'm not gonna be working with kids, and you'd be very tempted to not even look at it, but you are going to be asked questions. Do not skip over this. And yeah, this is a lot of information, because they're talking about how often, how intense, how long, what types of movements they should. If anything, the takeaway that I'll give you is at least know what the special considerations are for each population. Special considerations meaning for youth, make exercising fun is a special consideration. For people who are overweight or obese, a special consideration, for example, would be make sure the client is comfortable. Be aware of positions and locations in the facility your client is in. At least know what the special considerations are for each population group. But you will be asked. I know I was asked a couple questions. I was like, oh, crap. And, do your best. Because this is a lot of stuff to memorize. Okay. That does it for domain 3, but we still need to talk about the acute variables. Yeah, I don't know where to start. I think this is harder than memorizing. No, this is definitely more difficult and more challenging than memorizing the overhead squat assessment and overactive, underactive muscles. So many numbers, and here they go about going into the different training programs, like how we ran or went over before: flexibility, core, balance, plyometric, SAQ, and resistance. And there's reps, sets, and rest intervals and frequencies for each phase that you're in. And yes, they are going to ask you specifically how many sets or reps should we do, or should your client do if they're in phase 3 and they're on a plyometric training program. It's a hell of a lot of information. And for you to memorize all this and regurgitate it on the test day, it's tough. It definitely is tough. And they have 5 different tables for 5 different phases. I looked at it, I was like, no, this is fucking ridiculous. And I'm thinking, okay, so how am I going to do this? And what I did was I figured out a way to condense all of these 5 tables into one. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you're not memorizing, or I wasn't memorizing 5 different tables. I combined all those 5 into one, so I was actually studying and memorizing just one. I don't have a printout of it so that I can show you guys, but I do have it because I created on Excel a table. I do have it electronically. And I would be more than happy to share it with you guys. I don't care. I don't know. The only way I'd be able to give it to you guys or hand it off to you guys is if you message me and you give me your email address and I'll shoot that file over to you. But if it wasn't for that, I don't know how I would have. Yeah, it's nuts. When you go through this, you'll see patterns. Just like how you saw patterns in overactive, underactive muscles, same muscles are getting talked about, and same muscles are being mentioned, and same muscles are always underactive, same muscles are always overactive. The same principle applies to this, all the acute variables. And I'm not going to detail right now on how, because there are just so many different patterns and trends. But the table I created, the condensed version, really makes it obvious. And it makes memorizing and bringing it back out and regurgitating it a lot more easier. But yeah, I'm sorry to say, but you do need to know this. And it's not, I don't think it's emphasized enough, at least as far as whatever YouTube or online forums that I've looked at when I was prepping for the exam, but I don't think this was emphasized enough. And I think it's just as important, because from what I remember, yeah, I got asked a lot of overhead squat assessment related questions, but I got a good number of these acute variable questions too. So yeah, domain 3, this is a tough one. There's a heck of a lot of information and all of it is important, so you really need to know all of domain 3. That's the takeaway. Okay? All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I think we're running just over 20 minutes. Yeah, this is about twice as long as the last videos, but it's all good stuff. And I really hope that the stuff I'm putting out here is helpful, beneficial, and yeah, good luck. And let me know if you have any other questions.